I'm on a mission to disperse a verse to serve his higher purpose. This precursor to a version from a brighter light that's burning. All these sentences and pages from my days continue turning. Subtext right before my sermon. Scribbled this in triple person. Let me explain the case at hand. Mid-20s male, his name is Chris. And his routine had made him lazy because complacency's a bitch. A work in progress with recovery. He says he wants to quit. It doesn't fail. The attempts at rehab will tell you he's full of shit. He had a pattern through the years. It's like a scratch. He couldn't itch. As soon as he got on his feet and clean, he'd fall back in the ditch. Rock bottom doesn't have a depth. The darker it will get. He'd make arrangements for his payments, work himself right out of debt. Travel bus to work in double shifts, not breaking a sweat. But then he throws it all away because he's used to regret. That pattern's hard to forget. It's funny how we work so hard to get ourselves out of trouble from jumping hoops and crazy schedules, but somehow we can juggle. And when we finally make it through the rain and things become subtle, we burn it down to start from scratch. I guess we're used to the struggle. Every time his counselor asked his DOC, he would chuckle. He's more addicted to the chaos. Drugs just come in the bundle. He comes back stronger every time that he rebuilds from the rubble, but then he leaves it all to waste. He sticks his face to a bubble and twists the wrist from 10 to 2 and mix a cloud from the puddle. He justifies it's not the needle, not a relapse or fumble. The stubbornness he has inside it fights from keeping him humble. The irony about his pride is in a world full of trouble. He seems to think he has it figured out. He'll do what he wants to. But subconsciously he prays a rude awakening awaits him because his fiend inside is begging, bring me one more bag of H. And he's hanging by a thread. He'll do whatever it takes until he justifies another time his willpower breaks. He's desperate for a bed and treatment, several months that he waits. And when he finally gets the call, he gets a ride to the gates, but out the door in just 2 days because he can't handle the shakes. So now he's MIA. His family panics, thinks he's a goner. They breathe a sigh of slight relief. They read his name in the roster. Now they can finally sleep at night because he's stuck in the locker and off the streets. At least he's safe and separate from the monster. But they don't know inside corrections, dope is flowing like water. He convinces them upon release he's not going back. His voice is clear, it's real convincing, they don't think it's an act. Until he hits the fucking streets and dips a needle in black. Like a pen, he doodles, bleed the ink, his arms keeping track. Excuse me, tracks, tattoos he doesn't have. Can you imagine that? He needs some sleeves of ink or longer sleeves to hide where he's at. It's hard to make it as a thief without your image intact. To play the role, a cleaner image keeps your inquiry fat. But if he looked in better shape, his dude would think he's a rat. You gotta weigh the pros and cons to your supply and demand. So here he goes. He's back in order. Loiter buybacks. He's a hoarder, hoarding DVDs for several weeks. He's saving for a quarter. And in between his daily hustle, he can plug you with a score. But every time he plays the middleman, he's shaving off a corner. Several warrants down in Oregon, so he lays over the border. Tell his dealer needs a drive. The plug lays on the other side, but now the list of valid rides has evidently become shorter. He'll probably risk it for a cotton rinse, hot wire, or a Corolla. Paranoia got the best of him. He settled for an Uber, told the driver put the pedal down to Portland from Vancouver. This man is driving slow. Suspense is giving Chris a tumor. Plug is waiting on arrival. Better later than it's sooner. The bag in mind has got him blind, not looking out for his protection. On the run from Oregon DOC, he's headed that direction. Eastbound of the intersection was a precinct. Took a second to recognize he's being watched by cops, the least that he expected. But a blessing in disguise was wrapped into the single lesson, because little did he know that day, that road, he finished stepping. Every day stay looking for the rush, don't let him into heaven. Every day a game of life, roulette, stay loaded like a weapon. But everybody has a breaking point. That boy was hard to crack. And so the last time he got popped, the straw that broke the camel's back, he got exhausted from revolving doors and landing in the trap. He made it back. He'll never turn his back on standing where he's at. And here I am. I speak this message for the hopeless. I relate to where you're living. I can't silence what I've been through, have to share what I was given. Now it makes sense that you would judge my image. Looks can be convincing, but I robbed and stole. Did things so low legally, I can't mention. Now I don't look the part. I made a mindful, conscious, sure decision that I'd switch it. But some critics like to question what I speak on if I lived it. That's offensive, not to relish in the past on different felonies I've had. But I can dig up some old pics from back in sentencing. They're wicked. How the tables turn for me can work for you. Accept the mission. Any mess you tangled up yourself is capable of fixing. With every breath in my capacity, I'll carry out this mission. Break statistics, shake the system. Rest is up to you. Go get it.